Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jimmy Good, and joining me today, once again, is my co-host who abandoned me last week, but he's back from his trip to Washington, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how are you doing, pal?
I told you I'd be back.
Oh no.
I'm doing good, Jimmy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing just fine. I'm happy to have you back, man. It was fun having Tom here for sure, but it's nice. We'll have some good times for sure. And
hey, no one compares to me.
Yeah, exactly.
No one.
There's no other Joe. I know that for sure. But thank you also to a Joran Evers, who has this beautiful picture again. Check out his art station. It'll be linked down below. And thank you to Daylub/ThisIsDaylub for our cool intro-outro song that hopefully you heard in the beginning there. Let us know your thoughts on that, because I think it's pretty sweet. So, Joe, you like it too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It's great. Oh my goodness. Well, on today's podcast, we don't have a ton to talk about. There's not a ton of news because we've got a lot of things coming up, because we got Civil War this week, and then we have X-Men Apocalypse in a couple of weeks after that. So right now,
man.
we're building up to it.
I totally forgot that Civil War's coming really soon.
Yes,
Whoa.
And as your homework over the weekend, Joe, I might have to ask you to go see it, because I think next week's episode will be completely on Civil War, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to talk about. I've been on a media blackout for it, which means I haven't really seen or heard too much about it. But
well, I haven't, so I've heard everything.
Yeah,
what do you
Joe
wanna
knows
know?
the whole story. But I've still seen things here and there, but it's going to be pretty new to me, and I have an idea. I might bring it up at the end about what I want to see happen. Anyway, but today we're going to talk about the new Call of Duty Infinite Warfare trailer, because Joe really likes Call of Duty, and I like it a little bit. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some DC rumors of the DC Extended Universe, about some directors and stuff like that.
I'm just laughing because, Jimmy, I like COD a little bit.
Yeah, I only like it. I don't want to lie to people and be like, I think COD's the worst. I do like Call of Duty in some aspects, mostly the Black Ops stuff I have a respect for sure. Yeah. And then at the very end, because Joe went to Washington, might ask him a few questions about what happened in Washington. Did he get detained by Secret Service? Did they ask him any questions?
I nearly did. The attack dogs were, they were yanking at the leashes.
They're sniffing you up. They're like, hey, what's going on? But anyway, let's get right into it.
Might have been the bacon in my pockets. But
might have been. Well, that's not your fault. You carry bacon with you wherever you go.
Yeah, every man does, right?
He's making bacon. He's bringing home the bacon. That's what he does.
I always take a travel bag of bacon for a roadside snack.
Exactly. Why wouldn't you? Anyway, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Interesting name. But Joe and we just watched the trailer. I watched it a few days ago too. Joe, I kind of want your take on this, because you're a Call of Duty fan for sure, self-proclaimed, but you're more of a Black Ops guy, and Infinity Ward isn't necessarily your favorite developer of, or I might be getting this confused, like developer, if Activision's the developer, whatever, the branch who's making the game. What do you think about this? How do you feel?
Yeah, so official Call of Duty Infinite Warfare reveal trailer. It's already got upwards of 5 million views on YouTube, and it's only been out since, a few days here? A couple days?
Yeah, I think it's been it's been a few days for sure.
So,
yeah. Yesterday.
Big deal. I saw it trending on Facebook and everything. I mean, everybody's talking about it. Infinity Ward. Where do I begin? Sorry to say, I am much more of a Black Ops fan with Treyarch. Always have been. I just prefer the gameplay. There's people say, oh, they're not very different. And I beg to differ. The feel of the game, Treyarch, they seem to do a better job, and I just enjoy it more. However, just speaking of this trailer, we'll compare a bit later. But speaking to the trailer, I just watched it, so it's fresh. These trailers are always very cinematic and great to look at. A feast for the eyes, if you will, Jimmy.
Oh yeah, that's some would say that.
And man, this one looked awesome. The trailers always look good, they're not exactly representative of what the gameplay will look like, obviously. But holy man, this thing looked good. The environments and everything and the action sequences. I mean, I don't know. See, they do this to me. They spark my interest, and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta get it, and then I get let down,
Yeah,
so,
I get that.
And letdowns, what was the most recent one? Advanced Warfare. Yeah, I went and bought it. Did I like it? No. I gave it to a friend of mine for free. That's how much I liked it.
Oh wow, I didn't realize you did that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just something about it I didn't enjoy. And it's funny because the Black Ops Call of Duties, I'll go, I'll have matches where I'm like 20 some kills and 10 or 12 deaths. So not the best KD, but good. I'll play like these Infinity War games, and I never seem to do as well. I don't know what it is, but the feel of the game just doesn't speak to me. And they do some cool things, but I don't know. It's just not my forte.
Fair enough.
But the trailer looks like they mixed in some space gameplay in there, which is awesome. Not sure if that'll be in the multiplayer, but the campaign, campaign looks like it'll be fun. And I will say that about Infinity Ward. Any campaign I've played for their Call of Duty games, I loved them. But, let's face it, we all buy Call of Duty for the multiplayer gameplay. And they just haven't hit it home with me yet.
Fair enough. Now, my question to you, Joe, is about the franchise as a whole, because it's kind of like Assassin's Creed was for me. Is once I found out what this year's iteration was going to be, if I wasn't really interested in it, I'd always think, well, there's always next year, and where could they go with that? For this one, because they're going into space, it almost feels like, at least to me, that it's hard to go anywhere else unless they just, in the next one, if it's just all space all the time. So my question to you is, do you think there's something they can go to after this? Are you okay with the whole space vibe? Do you like that? Or are you kind of like, this is like, they're running out of ideas? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, space to me, that's fine. As long as you make it, I don't want to be floating around like, a guy who just landed on the moon, floating 20 feet to the side, but I'm moving all slow and junk. Obviously that doesn't work for Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
They have to make it playable, grounded. You got to be able to move on the ground, and you have to be agile. Signatory to the Call of Duty gameplay, fast-paced and twitchy. Part of me feels that they're just going to do it in the campaign, and I doubt they're going to have it in the multiplayer.
Well, it looked like from the trailer there might be like a space station up in space that people could be fighting on. Like we kind of thought about.
And I remember in a previous podcast we talked about that. If they were to do something in space, they should do it in like a giant space station or like a cargo ship, like like in the movies Alien, where they're on the big the cargo ships and they're running from the alien. If you're on a big ship like that or something, really cool map, that could really work. I think that's fine. I did notice a lot of guns in here. They weren't too out there as far as futuristic. I noticed a lot of, typical submachine guns and assault rifles, which is good. I even saw, I think, an AK-47 in there. So I'm glad to see that they're not getting too crazy with the guns. I don't want a bunch of like crazy lasers and stuff. I want freaking bullets, something I can feel the vibration from,
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed that. And, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they have some space mixed in there for the multiplayer, I think that's how they got to do it. It's got to be grounded. It's not like you're going to be on the surface of a planet or anything. So, you'll be in space, but it's not going to necessarily feel like it. You're just going to feel like you're in an industrial space station or cargo ship, something of that nature, I think. So...
Yeah.
In the campaign, it looks like you do a bit of floating around and snapping some necks and that sort of thing, which I think in a previous campaign for one of their Call of Duty games, you did the same thing. I think that might have been Advanced Warfare, but which was cool. I mean, it's fun to play through the campaign and you're doing something totally different and out there where you're floating around and doing stuff with no gravity. That's neat. Different aspect of gameplay that you don't see in many video games.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the other thing I want to bring up about this trailer is that it seems like there's a lot of robots, not necessarily mech suits a lot, but mostly like robots that they're kind of working with alongside. There might even be like an AI partner that you could get alongside you to help fight with you. But my thought was, when I saw that, and with Advanced Warfare, they kind of had the exosuits a little bit. Do you think that at a point they're just getting too close to something like Titanfall, where again they can't really go further with it? So that would be like the next big step if Titanfall hadn't already got to it with like big mech suits and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't see Call of Duty ever going in that direction because yeah, Titanfall's already done it, and it makes the game too different. I think with Call of Duty, it's more about it's more about your first person shooting um, in small targets, etc. If you have big robots running around with people in them shooting people, I just see it as like, okay, let's see how many bullets I can put into it and blow it up, whatever. I just don't see it going that direction. Yeah, the AI, the little buddy who follows you around, which I don't feel is a bad idea. I think that's pretty cool. Score streak. All of
Yeah,
a
that'd
sudden
be a
I
really
get
cool
10
one.
kills in a row and I get him in a care package. And he follows me around and helps cover my six or something. That's cool. That's similar to something like when they did the attack dogs as a perk. Or not perk, but score streak.
Yeah, kill
I think
streak.
that's cool, and I'm fine with that. But I don't think it should be like, okay, every match you start out with your guy and you run around. And it should obviously be a score streak. So just a new thing that they throw in there, similar to like in the new Black Ops, you get like a Talon drone that follows you around and shoots people. That's similar to that, and I don't think it's a bad idea. And it's another target for the other players to focus down on while you can shoot them, and they gotta choose: do I shoot him or his robot? Which is neat.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm not okay with the dogs, but I'm okay with the mechs or the little like the robots and stuff. I never liked having my dog get shot up. I always felt bad. I'm like, oh, you can summon your dog, and I'm like, it's just gonna get shot up. I'm just gonna feel bad, like remorse.
Yeah, that's
but,
like somebody blows up your turret or something. Only you get angry about that. Well, when it's your dog, you get even angrier because it's like, you killed my dog, you son of a bitch.
I'm thinking of how to like find that person in real life, and they're like, dude, it's just a game. The dog's not real. Be like, it was real to me. Like,
I will find you.
Yeah, exactly. You'll zod it up. The last part about this trailer, I kind of want to get your opinion on, and I was confused about it at first, was the fact that they're doing a remastered version of the first Modern Warfare. And at the end, when they were showing all this stuff, I've kind of followed the campaigns a little bit for those games, and I was thinking like, are we like retreading the same ground? I was like, this looks awfully familiar, and I was like, oh, maybe it'll be a map or something. But they're remastering the first Modern Warfare to come packaged along with it. I don't know if it's like a pre-order special or whatever, but is that a selling point to you, Joe? Is that something you're interested in?
A little bit, yeah. Well, here's the thing with me is I never really, by the time I got exposed to Call of Duty, I never, I wasn't a big gamer growing up, and I got into college, and I think like my sophomore year was the first time I ever got, well, not even then, like my junior year was the first time I got my own Xbox. So I got my Xbox 360, and I was like, okay, well, obviously I'm going to get Call of Duty, and basically all I ever owned was Call of Duty and a couple racing games, because that's just, I don't know, what I'm into. And so my first exposure to Call of Duty was Modern Warfare 2, which I really enjoyed. I really liked that game. And when I compare that game to like the ones I'm playing now, I feel like Black Ops has a much more precise feel as opposed to like the Modern Warfares, where I felt like it was a little more mushy feeling almost. I just didn't feel like it was as precise. But yeah, needless to say, that was my first exposure, so I wish they'd do that one. I'd love to play that on Xbox One remastered, but yeah, so this Modern Warfare, I haven't played it, but going back to a more original Warfare style, I think would be great. And to be honest, I don't think it would be a bad thing if they came out with a new Call of Duty game that was set in modern day, today. I mean, think about our armed forces and the abilities they have now. There's some cool stuff, man. Keep it original, keep it modern day. And it appeals to me more because I think, oh yeah, it's like real war gunplay and stuff. That appeals to me. I know they got to keep advancing things, but sometimes I feel like it's just original to put it in modern day. I like that original feel. I think they'd be fun. But
Yeah,
so
definitely.
part of me wishes they go back, but I doubt that'll happen.
Yeah, and I think the thought with that, Joe, is that if they make one and it comes out annually, if they go back to modern day or any other thing, a lot of people will kind of see it as a regression, as if the franchise can't move forward anymore, like it's kind of peaked or whatever,
Exactly.
and that they have to come back.
Hence why they probably will never do it. But
exactly, and that makes me even more sad because we talk about the games that we really want to see and games that I would love to see, such as like a Call of Duty set in the Revolutionary War, or the Call of the West Call of Duty, where they're out in like, gunslinging old West times, like shooters, repeater rifles. Oh my goodness, that would be so great.
I'm
really
thinking like later Civil War.
That would be pretty good too, and that one's fun to market because, like I said, if you love America, then you're like, yeah, I'll just pick, I'll pick the North more or less, and you're like, if you don't really get into that or you hate America for what it is, you can be like, I'll pick the South. Like we'll do a campaign where the South wins, and what happens then? You know what I mean? Like that would be kind of an interesting thing as a writer, I would think, to be like, given that opportunity to just be like, all right, the South won and they seceded and now they have their own thing. Like, what's that like? And then they shoot to, at the very end, maybe the modern times and what it's like. That could be weird, but kind of cool.
Yeah, so a historic Call of Duty is on my wish list. That's it. Needless to say, it is.
Yeah, well, maybe one day we'll get that. Fun. One day, perhaps.
Well, because I don't know about you, but if I was on these teams, on the design team or the in the think tank at Infinity Ward or Treyarch, I'd be like, man, guys, where do we go with this next? I mean, how more advanced can we get? I don't know. I mean, you can think about what's going to be out there in the future all you want, but I mean,
aliens, Joe. It's going to be aliens next. Laser weapons.
I don't know, man. I mean, what kind of weapons are they going to have at that point? Are they going to have, weapons that are just laser shooters, etc.? Get rid of bullets altogether? I mean,
psychic mind weapons. You just look at people and they die. Their heads explode. That's the type of game I'm into. Just look at them. But so, Joe, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, 10 being completely hyped on our hypometer, whatever. How excited are you for this game? What would you rate it at?
Well, so having only seen the cinematic trailer,
yes,
looks great, etc., etc. I'm happy about it. It sparks my interest. However, until I see more, I can only give it about a 6.
Okay.
I'm not entirely pumped on it yet, and that's due in part to the fact that I've been let down in the past.
He's been burned in the past.
Yeah. I just haven't loved those games as much as the Treyarch versions, Black Ops. Those I buy every one of them, and I love them. I've been playing the Call of Duty Black Ops 3 a lot lately, off and on. I pop that game in all the time just to relieve a little stress and kill some people, But yeah, all the other Infinity Ward ones, Advanced Warfare, I gave it away because I didn't really care about it, and I think what was the other one, Ghosts?
Yeah, that was a big disappointment.
Yeah, I played it a bit for fun. I kind of liked the weapons and stuff. It was a bit more modern day based, but
quick scoping, Joe. Quick scoping.
Oh my god! I mean, quick scoping will always be a part of Call of Duty. I'm okay with it to a point, but in those games, it was ridiculous. It was like they didn't even look at you and they shot you. That drove me nuts. And in the new Black Ops, I noticed people can do it somewhat, but I don't think it's as prevalent as it was in the Infinity Ward versions.
Yeah, so. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's basically like if you take a sniper rifle and run around and then like use it kind of like as an assault rifle style player where you just kind of run around with it. You see someone and you pull up your scope really fast and shoot them in the head like really quickly, and they can't. You have to be kind of skilled to do it, but if you're good at it.
But needless to say, you pull up the scope so quick, it's like you tap the aim button, the left trigger, you tap it, and you don't even really aim at them. You just tap it and it kind of auto aims, and you pull the trigger simultaneously. So you're not really aiming at them. You just look in their direction and it kind of focuses on them.
Yeah.
But you don't even see it. It's just like, okay, quick scope. I didn't even really take time to line that shot up. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's dumb. Anyway, so you give it a 6 out of 10 right now.
Yeah. So now, Jimmy, if you saw more on it and it looked real enticing, would you entertain it at all?
I don't know. I will tell you this right now. I started chuckling to myself during the trailer when they went up into space because for the longest time I'd heard rumors and I was like, oh, this is the last thing they could do. And then they take off into space. I'm like, yep, here it is. Like,
Yeah, so the jet fighters and stuff, those are awesome. Those look really cool.
Yeah, that's cool to me.
That.
It's interesting, but it's not a selling point. And at this point, for me, I'm interested in different types of shooters. Like we've talked about Overwatch, obviously ad nauseum, and we'll talk about it again. But for this one right now, I'm probably at like a 1. I don't know, maybe a 2. I'm not really excited at all. It's just another Call of Duty. Yeah,
at least give it a 2.5, Jimmy. I mean,
I'm giving it a 1.
Pitiful.
Solid 1. The only interest is that it looks kind of cool, like you said, the fighter jets, but that's not to me. That's not worth $60.
It's Call of Duty. You're not going to be flying around in a fighter jet shooting people. It's not that game. So
they'll have a mode that's like fighter jet mode.
Yeah, so it's extremely unenticing to you, mainly because it's the Infinity Ward series, and it's Call of Duty, and and one thing I've been preaching to you a lot and trying to get you on board with is Black Ops 3. I think you'd have a blast with that, you and me running together. I think you'd like it a lot, and you've had fun in previous Black Ops games. However, for these Infinity War games, I would never put pressure on you to get it because, needless to say, I really don't care to get it yet. We'll see what else is revealed about it coming up, but
yeah, I get that, and I think as time goes by, I understand the types of games I like more. And as I've told you, I'm more interested in games that we actually work together, because we talk about running together in these games, but we rarely do that. And Team Deathmatch isn't really anything about a team. It's more of like we're all just solo agents kind of working, independently from one another, trying to get as many kills as possible and not trying to die.
Contribute to the team score, yeah. So it's not really like, okay, you do this and I'll do that and we'll get a bunch of kills together. It doesn't really work that way. I mean, some people are good at that work in parties together online, but that's rare.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so attracted to Overwatch, is because I don't necessarily need to be a damage dealer to contribute a lot, and we have to run together to some degree, or we have to work in unison, otherwise we won't complete our objective. And that's way more enticing and way more rewarding to me, as opposed to like I finish a match I went like 13-8 and I'm like, that was great, I guess we just do it again. It's more of, I think it's a little more self-indulgent in Call of Duty, where you're just kind of like, oh yeah, I did well and that was great. It's not like I necessarily helped you get more kills. It was just like I got myself more kills,
Yeah, I mean, Drew and I have our moments, where I'll save him from getting killed and that sort of thing, or we'll hold up in a room, that sort of deal. That could be fun. And to those who don't know, Drew's a good friend of ours that we play online with a lot, and you'll probably see him in some of Jimmy's Twitch streams and all that. But anywho, so there are moments to Call of Duty, but it's not as involved as something like Overwatch. Now, when you bring up Overwatch, and I'm sure we'll maybe talk about it towards the tail end of this or something to give you guys a bit of an overview on that style of gameplay and what that game's all about. But you have to work as a team, and every player, the character they select, has his own attributes and kind of what he's geared toward, what he or she is geared towards doing. Whether it's a defense player that sets up turrets, or an attack player assaults, with an assault rifle or shotguns. So it makes me wonder, could Call of Duty go in that direction? Where it's a more team style game as opposed to just straight team deathmatch. Maybe they have a team deathmatch where you have different style characters that are more geared towards, have different attributes, and then you have to kind of plan things out and work together in order to take out the other team. I think that could be cool. Yeah, I don't know. So there are options for Call of Duty to advance things in the future, and I think that's one of them. Maybe learn from games like Overwatch and do those styles of gameplay.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that here and there with things like Destiny and with Black Ops 3, but in those cases where the classes kind of differ only slightly every once in a while, the thing about these types of games is that you can roleplay a little bit more, and if you're like May, the person who's like freezing people, who I really love, if I do stuff, I automatically, like, I'm already seeing how I'm contributing. It's it shows me, and I stand out from the crowd. I'm just not just another guy like in black and gray who looks really cool, granted, but like is just another guy with a gun. I'm like completely different. And that's really
Well,
cool to me. I like being different, but also really part of that team. And that's something that they do, and that Call of Duty doesn't really have a lot of. Is that you're just part of a team, quote unquote, but you're not really standing out from the crowd. There's nothing really special about you that no one else could do.
yeah, so and here's something that I'm totally guilty of in playing Overwatch. Like you said, Overwatch, you contribute to the team. You don't necessarily have like a KD ratio. It doesn't necessarily record kills and deaths. It does, but like you assist in taking somebody out, executing somebody, you automatically get like a point for a takeout, right? Or what do they call it?
Oh, eliminations.
Eliminations, yeah. So elimination necessarily isn't a kill, but I'm so guilty of pressing the select button and
Yeah,
looking at how many eliminations I have versus how many deaths.
I
It's
still
just
do
a
that
habit
too.
of mine.
I
I'm
know.
so like, oh, how many kills do I have? Because that's like, it just pumps me up.
Yeah,
So
I notice I don't do that so much in Overwatch as like Heroes of the Storm, where I'm like, oh, did I help with that like takedown or did I get that kill myself? Whereas in this game, I'm like, okay, I just helped. I don't really care how they died. I'm just like, thank you. I just one less person to worry about. But yeah, also the aesthetic and everything. I love how it's so different. That's one thing Call of Duty I don't think will ever do because they have a tried and true formula. They have to keep making very similar games because they make crazy money every year. They can't not do it. It like keeps the lights on.
yeah, yeah.
So I get
Well,
that.
and with Overwatch, I like it, and I just started playing it in the closed beta with you last night, so it's fresh yet. But I'd like to see them, Blizzard, who had help by Treyarch, by the way, with some of the gunplay, which is
Mm-hmm.
very cool to me,
That's
and
really
it's
cool.
totally noticeable because I like the control and the way the game functions and everything. But I would like to see a more realistic version of Overwatch 2. I mean, I appreciate it for what it is. I think it's awesome and it's very bright and it's visually intense and I enjoy it. Um, and the maps are pretty cool. A lot of cover and high elevations, low elevations. It's neat, but I'd like to see a real. And I always say this, when we're like talking about DC versus Marvel and stuff like that. I like to see things that are really gritty and realistic. I'm just that type of guy. Whereas Overwatch is just a bit cartoony for my taste. But that doesn't mean I like it any more or any less. It's still an awesome game, and I have fun playing it. I'm definitely going to purchase it. But that's just me. I think it'd be cool to have a real realistic Overwatch.
I
But
really think that would never work because the characters in the game are by design not really supposed to exist in a real world. It's kind of like DC, and that's one of the biggest problems I think that people are having with that too, is that you have someone like Superman that doesn't really it's hard for him to exist in like a Dark Knight kind of universe where everything's more realistic. But in Overwatch, you have like these, bright, colorful characters. It's supposed to be happy and fun, and I get what you're saying. Maybe some of the skins they could do that, but I think the point is to make a beautiful looking kind of Pixar-esque type of game. And I think the
yeah, and I guess
grittiness,
that's what it's like. It's kind of Pixar-esque,
yeah,
as
and I
you
don't
put
think
it.
it'll
That's
ever
right.
be gritty. I'll just tell you that right now, which is fine because that's not the point. And besides, I think if they did gritty too, they'd have to tone down a lot of the colors. And even though it is bright and shiny, which I love personally, it also helps differentiate everybody from one another. And you can see who's doing what. And you can see him from a distance, be like, oh, yeah, that's obviously like Soldier 76 over there. I can tell by his outfit or whatever,
That's
even from
true.
a
Yeah, every
distance.
character has a very different look, which I'm totally all for. Yeah.
Again, we're talking about like if you make it gritty, then everybody might start to look the same, and that's what you like a little bit more, maybe more uniformity, if you will. But I say let them stand out
Well,
amongst
no,
the
I'm fine
crowd.
with them standing out. I'm more or less just saying I like it to be more realistic. Like the robot guys that turn into turrets should be, you know, they can be larger and stuff, but those I don't have such a problem with. It's more like the people. Um, I want to make sure. I like to see that the people look realistic and stuff, but here it's a bit more cartoonish, Pixar-esque, which is fine with me. I enjoy it. It looks good, etc. But I think it'd be cool to see one that's more based in real life because it could be neat. I just think it'd be a different take on it. It'd be neat to look at, but needless to say, they hit it home with Overwatch. I like it, but
Well, their proportions aren't too bad on these. I know that's one problem you have a lot of, but for the most part, I think if you look at the actual models of the characters, they don't look like, oh, that guy's got like a huge head and he's supposed to be like a regular person. You know, like they did a decent job. I mean, obviously their features look a little more cartoony, but for the most part, it's not like, oh man, his arms are just way too big. You know.
yeah. But what about that big potbelly guy that runs around with the
I'll give you
little
that.
head?
He's huge, but
Jeez,
I feel like I've
like-
seen people like that in real life.
Yeah, I guess we do live in the good old USA, right? Where
Yes,
McDonald's
sir,
and
we
Burger
do.
King
And he's from
exist.
Australia, believe it or not. That's Roadhog we're talking about.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
You know, without knowing it, Joe, you kind of transitioned us into our next thing, talking about gritty things and talking about DC. We have a little DC rumor mill, if you will. Got some rumors floating around about stuff going on. I kind of wanted to throw them at you, Joe, and let you digest them, let me know what you think, whatnot. So,
All right.
The Flash lost its director, I'm pretty sure. And there's a chance that the guy who did the directing for Fast and Furious 7, James Wan, might be leaving Aquaman. Potentially. We're not sure about that one. So they're kind of scrambling, and I guess the higher-ups at WB or whoever's kind of running this show, they're really nervous about Zack Snyder after this last movie and where he might take the Justice League because, you know, regardless of how you feel about that film, if Justice League doesn't do well, they can't really go ahead with their other movies, which is huge. It's kind of like if the Avengers flopped, like we wouldn't have all these Marvel movies right now, probably. And they'd probably have to reboot it. So my question to you, Joe, is what would you want to see in maybe The Flash or even Aquaman? What would be the things that you need to see that you think would make it just really, really solid and good? And you can definitely take some ideas from like the Flash TV show if you like that kind of stuff, if you want to try to implement some aspects, not obviously the same thing because they want to change it up a little, but what would you do to make these Flash and Aquaman really, really strong?
Ugh. Man, hit me with the harder questions, would you? Jeez.
Yeah. No wrong answers, but there can be wrong answers.
What would I like to see to make them really hit home and be on the same level as like an Iron Man 1 or 2?
Yeah, there you go. Maybe not so much 2, but
yeah. Geez, Jimmy, you gotta give me these ahead of time. I need time to think on that. I guess, you know, from my point of view, I had no problems with the DC movies that have been put out as of recently, Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. I don't, and I know I'm on a critical reviews podcast, so I gotta be critical, but I really, and we've talked about it in previous podcasts, I don't have huge issues with them. Maybe, yeah, sure, a casting choice here or there, but so far I think their casting choice for Aquaman spot on. I think he's gonna be awesome. In order for that movie to hit home and really succeed, what do they got to do? I'm trying to think out loud here. Well,
That's
first
okay.
of all, he's got to have some badass abilities. I mean, he can't just be, oh, I'm going to talk to my pod of dolphins over here and have them attack this guy. I mean, what?
Yeah, that's true.
They're going to really have to boost him up a little bit to make him, seem like he's on the same playing field as Batman and Superman, and I don't know. You kind of have me stumped here. I guess it's not my job to be the guy on how we make this movie succeed, but I think it's going to do well.
Yeah.
Despite whoever they get, I mean, they're going to get somebody good to do it, and you know that. I just, it's like your question that you give me, I'm thinking like, okay, what am I going to do for a storyline? How would I write the story for this movie? What kind of script would you be looking at?
Well, you don't have to do that necessarily. Just pick things out like as a fan that you might want to see maybe is better. And I guess the other part of that would be, do you think that Zack Snyder's kind of painted any director into a corner with both of these because The Flash and Aquaman can be dark if they need to be, but are typically a little, like especially The Flash, a little more lighthearted, a little more fun.
Sure.
And so it's hard to be like, all right, now make like kind of a dark, gritty Flash movie. And you're like, he's a guy who can run faster than anybody else. how do you make that?
Yeah, well, he can be a little cocky, a little quick-witted sort of deal, kind of Spider-Man-esque, if you will.
There you go.
Because, a guy like that, fast and snippy, should be his MO, I don't necessarily want it to be a comedic laugh fest, though. But I agree with that. What would I like to see out of it, though? First off, I hope the design and the look of him is good, because I don't want to... I like the Flash TV show. I like his outfit, everything. He looks the way the Flash should. And that little snippet that we see when he shows up in Batman's dream,
whatever
dream,
the heck that
whatever,
is.
Whatever that was. He looked a little odd to me.
Yeah, for sure. He had the helmet that was like mechanized or whatever.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do there, but I think that's an important factor. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I need to pose the question to you. I want to hear your thoughts, and maybe I can come up with some better ideas. But that's important to me, is that they both look the part and look right, I guess. Because I'm much more of a visual person. I appreciate aesthetics and the way things look, and I don't want them to look weird or cartoony or anything out of outlandish, I guess.
Yeah, I get that. Well, I guess for me, for the Flash stuff, I think that what they'll try to do, and not necessarily what I want them to do, but they'll try to do something a little bit different than the TV show, which I'm still really sad that they couldn't just kind of marry all that together. But for the Flash, I think they do need to make that one a little more lighthearted. I think they definitely need to play into that, because right now one of the biggest criticisms or critiques of the DC extended universe is that there isn't a lot of kind of jolliness or happiness going on. Not that there needs to be, but for typically, like, a lot of comics for many, many years have been a little more jovial. And obviously there are some that are super duper dark too. But I think for this first Flash movie, it wouldn't hurt them to say, all right, let's have a little fun with this. Let's just make it a good time. Let's not try to be crazy or gritty and have the Flash just like have to kill somebody in like a really horrible way and it changes him forever. You don't need to do any of that. For Aquaman, I think what they really need to do is bang it home, if you will, or knock it out of the park, I should say. That sounds better. Bang it home. I don't know if that's a little phrase I made up. Hashtag bang it home. But what they need to do is really make sure that people know how powerful he is, because he's been a laughing stock for many years. And a lot of diehard fans talk about how great he is, and he actually is very, very powerful. He's like basically the Superman of the seas. And they just need to really go over the top, like in Man of Steel, and show what he can do. Don't be afraid. I mean, the guy looks sweet. Go nuts with it. Also, if he loses a hand and it becomes a hook at one point, which has happened to Aquaman, that might not be too bad either. But just go crazy. Make sure he's fighting someone that's kind of worth it, and make sure you show at least 2 or 3 moments, kind of like Avengers style, when Hulk like punches that Chitauri Leviathan in the face. Show him doing something that's like insane, and people are like, whoa. Let's not make fun of Aquaman anymore. I mean, don't necessarily do a Sharknado, but he could make a Sharknado if he wanted to. Like, he's that powerful. Like, he's very strong. And I want to see it, and be creative. You know, you want to use sharks and stuff like that, but use some other crazy, like, deep sea, like, denizens, if you will. Kind of go nuts with it. If he summons a giant squid at one point, fantastic.
Yeah, okay. Sure,
make it a spectacle. Don't be afraid. Don't hold back, because if you do, it's going to get weird. And that's where I think the difference between, like, if it's gritty and realistic, they'll be afraid to do that in the universe. And that's why I'm worried that because of the portrayal of Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel a little bit, it is over the top, obviously, in some points, but they haven't gotten kind of zany. And I think Aquaman has the potential to be a little zanier with his powers, but don't be afraid to embrace it a little bit, because that's what makes him so cool and powerful, that he can do a lot of things. Don't be afraid.
True.
Show it off.
And when I like to say I like more realistic, dark and gritty. I don't mean that as in downplay them at all, because I totally agree with what you're saying. They should really embrace it and make it over the top. Sure, yeah, I'm all for that. I guess I just prefer the I don't know how to say it. I just like the dark feel of movies. Like I've always been a fan of things like Sleepy Hollow, and I kind of like my horror movies too. So I always kind of like that dark feel to a movie. Sometimes it gives me a more intimate sense while watching it.
The ambiance of it all.
Yeah, the ambiance. It just kind of hits home with me, and everybody has their own taste on what they like in that aspect. But yeah, they do need to make it a little bit outlandish and really embrace who Aquaman is and go over the top with it so it's really a feast for everyone's senses. I mean, you need to have that in order for these movies to succeed. So yeah, don't hold back at all by any means.
Well, I think the problem with what you're just saying is that they don't necessarily need to do that to succeed because, unfortunately, in a weird way, the critical and fan success of the Dark Knight trilogy kind of told the higher ups in a way. They're like, if we make it gritty and realistic, it's going to do really well. And it's like, no. It's like with Deadpool. Just because one movie does something like this doesn't mean it works for all of them. Batman can be gritty and realistic, but he can also be kind of crazy and out there. Deadpool can be rated R because he's an R-rated character. Don't make oh my gosh, I don't want to see Captain America R-rated film. Like I don't necessarily need to see him bashing someone's face in with his vibranium shield. Like I don't need to necessarily. It'd be cool actually, but
Gotcha.
But I mean, there's some characters I don't need him swearing a bunch. You know what I mean? I don't just because they think something works for one thing doesn't mean it works for everything.
Oh yeah,
that's why
true. Yeah,
I think that's why they wanted to go with this style for most of these movies. And Man of Steel they actually did a pretty good job with. They still went over the top with it, and it still felt kind of in a weird way still semi-grounded sometimes.
Yeah.
Obviously the end of that movie goes insane, but don't hold back. These characters are larger than life, and don't try to just make them regular people.
Yeah. But I'm at least glad that Man of Steel, it felt grounded in a way that it gets a little over the top, granted, but it always seems to have a story behind how they are so powerful. There's reasoning behind it to where it makes it possible in my eyes. I want to know that this, I mean, I know it couldn't happen, but I want to feel like it could actually be a thing. You know what I mean? Because that's what really inspires me about these movies is everybody wants to be that superhero that can do these extraordinary things. So that's where I like to see it be, just a little grounded and realistic. And that's what I mean when I say that. So, but by no means do I want them to hold back. I just want to know that there's reasoning behind it.
Yeah, for sure. It makes it easier to digest stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I just don't want it to be like, oh, he just is. He's just crazy powerful and can do all these things. It just is. It's like, no. That's like saying it is what it is.
Yes,
Screw
thank
that
you.
line.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen to that. Joe's dying. He's speaking from the heart.
Excuse me. I'm so upset. I can't even breathe properly.
Yeah, that's okay. That happens. I understand that. Well, I was going to say the other thing, too, about Man of Steel is that it starts on Krypton, and maybe that makes it a little easier to kind of go nuts with it later on. I hope They do that, a similar thing, start in Atlantis, kind of backstory for Aquaman. Don't be afraid to open up on something that might be out of this world, or in our world, but very far away, if you will. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Other thing that I want to talk about quick, Joe, unless you had any other things to say about that.
No, I think we got off on a few tangents there
Good deal.
addition to it, but no, it all relates back, and I think everything was well said.
Good deal. The last rumor that's probably not true, but it could be. The director for Mad Max Fury Road has been looked at for being the director for Green Lantern Corps, which might star up to 2 or 3 different Green Lanterns, mainstream Green Lanterns, not just random aliens, Hal Jordan, and there's 2 others that I'm not as familiar with. But
is Dwayne Johnson gonna play one of them?
He's gonna play, I believe is it Black Adam? He's gonna be the Shazam villain.
Oh, okay.
So that's fine. But George Miller, I mean, from Mad Max Fury Road, how do you feel about them looking at him potentially, or just any superhero film? Would you be interested in seeing something that he would do with that?
Well, I know you and I have talked about Mad Max and the way they use practical effects and things of that nature.
Love it.
Yes.
Love
yes.
it.
So, by all means, get him on board and let's do it, because I think he'll do a good job. I really liked Mad Max the movie. Went and saw it with my dad, and he absolutely loved it. And he's not a guy for those outlandish films, but he really liked it. He wasn't too crazy about Tom Hardy, and neither am I, for that matter. He just,
in that movie especially, but he doesn't really add much. You're supposed to feel, I think, like you are Mad Max.
Exactly, yeah. In that aspect, I mean, you don't really. He doesn't matter too much, and it's not like he's saying all these crazy lines or dialogue or anything. But I don't understand that movie.
That's okay. You don't need to. It's
I would like to
apocalyptic.
know a little bit of background behind why it is or how it came to be. I don't understand it. It's just kind of like, okay, here we are, and this is what they're doing, and I guess it's supposed to be in like a post-apocalyptic world, maybe, whatever.
Yeah. They ran out of water and stuff, and the people who have it have a lot of power.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, don't think about it too much. But
yep.
Yeah.
But bringing some practical effects to something like Green Lantern, which obviously is going to need a lot of CGI and stuff. But man, if you can mix in those practical effects, it just hits home with me. Love it.
Yeah. Well, I think that he should teach a class on using CGI to bolster an environment. Like make a valley or make a mountain, but don't necessarily make every person into CGI.
Yeah.
And I think that if he was brought on for this, he could find some really cool and interesting things to do with that. And man, practical effects, I know they cost a lot and it's a lot of work to do, but the staying power of those films, for me, I'm wearing a Jurassic Park shirt right now. And guess what? I've talked about it a few times today already. I still love it. Practical effects all the way. CGI sparingly, please, because guess what? No matter how good you make it, unless you're the Jungle Book, who we'll see in a few years how good that still looks, but it's going to age it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So,
well, not to mention, I mean, I understand why they use so much CGI. It's because for the time they have and everything and the budgets, they can do it quicker for less money, whereas practical effects take time to construct. They involve more people, and all that equals more money. So I do understand it, but as long as you can do it like they did for Mad Max, they use practical effects where it makes sense, and then use the CGI to just complement it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
no,
hopefully they go that route. I think that'd be great. And let's face it, after the first Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds, and I think Ryan Reynolds would be the first to admit it, they need to hit this one home, because if they don't, Green Lantern's dead.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they can't really go down from here with this.
Yeah,
but this might be one of the hardest things, movies-wise, if you were to pick George Miller to be like, all right, try to put your practical effects in here. If he was doing Superman or something, he'd be like, all right, you have a chance, like everybody, like on Earth, and you can blow stuff up, and you know. But this might be a little harder to do, depending on where they set it. So they can still do stuff on Earth, obviously. But yeah. So I'm all for that. Go George Miller. If that's true, it probably isn't. But if it were, or any superhero film, I say bring that guy on board. Which. Yeah. A little side note, if Sam Raimi ever gets the chance to do another Spider-Man film, I say give it to him. Poor guy's still getting hatred for Spider-Man 3. Not your fault, Mr. Raimi.
Yeah.
Sony pushed you to do Venom. I'm so sorry. I just want to give him a hug and be like, it's going to be okay.
Speaking of that, let's hope they do a true to the Venom character movie.
I have no idea what they're doing. I just hope that Marvel gets to talk to them and say, like, okay, we get that you might be doing like a standalone Venom, which could be R-rated, and that would make sense that his character could be, but I hope that if they do that they use a lot of consulting from Marvel still. Like, I hope that it's like, all right, we're doing our own thing. We're not sharing this with you. But if you were to do it, how would you do it? And they're just like taking notes as Kevin Feige's like, I'd do this and I'd do that. And it'd be like, oh, there you go. It's just
focus. I gotta admit, a Venom movie, man, you could take that and just run with it in so many directions. I mean, you could add in a horror aspect to it, because I mean, when you look at Venom, it's supposed to strike a little fear in you. I mean, look at the guy; he's gnarly and just ominous. I mean, you could, especially with an R rating, have some fun with it, please.
Yeah, for sure.
Off
we'll
on a
probably
bit of a tangent there, but
that's okay.
that's one of my
it's my
wish
fault.
list items, and I cannot wait. Ugh.
We'll talk about it again in like a slow news week. I'll just be like, hey Joe, what's on your like wish list for movies? And you'll be like, Venom movie, do the Venom movie.
Yeah, I'm a big Venom fan. For anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, man, I am too. So good. Oh, and Carnage and all that other stuff. I've been learning a lot about symbiotes lately for a future YouTube video to come up about top 5 Marvel supervillains that you should know about. I'm really excited about it coming down the pipeline. So, anyway, Venom isn't one of them. Everybody knows Venom. Last thing I want to talk about here, as we start to wrap up here, is you went to Washington. Little segment, Mr. Joe Goes to Washington.
Yeah, Washington State, Seattle. It was,
Washington,
yeah, awesome.
Sorry, Washington D.C. What did you do? Like, what was just maybe like the 2 best things you did? Because I'm sure you did a ton of stuff. Like, what were just the 2 biggest highlights that you're like, this and this?
Ooh, 2 biggest highlights. Number 1, I got to take a tour of the West Wing of the White House.
That's sweet.
Holy man, it was awesome.
So much history.
Oh.
Do you feel really historical? I feel like if I went there, I'd get like a lot of like national pride and stuff. Like I'd be walking around like, oh my gosh.
Well, I'll tell you what. Everybody has this grand picture in their mind of the White House. Even when you see it from Pennsylvania Avenue, from the front or even from the back, you look at the White House and you think, oh, it's so grand, it's amazing. And it is, don't get me wrong. But when you get into the West Wing, it's a lot smaller and more intimate feeling than you would expect. It was historical feeling, and not as techie as I thought it'd be. Techie's the wrong word. It's historical, not very modernized. Everything's very what's the word? Original feeling.
That's cool.
Which is true to the history. You know, it doesn't change too much. I mean, there's not a lot of TV monitors on the wall showing anything, etc. It's a lot of White House photographers. Something that was really cool is that they swap out photos on the walls throughout the halls and rooms of the White House. So as you're walking through the halls in the West Wing, you see photos that were taken in the past 2 weeks that they blow up and hang on the wall. Like pictures of President Obama's daughters talking with Ryan Reynolds at that recent ball they had, which was cool, and a bunch of other ones. Obama throwing a football with what's his name they took over for David Letterman, Stephen Colbert.
Oh, that's cool.
That was pretty cool. And there's a bunch of other ones, and I can go on, but they were all just kind of candid shots, and it was neat. And regardless of what party you're in, etc., whether you like President Obama or not, it's cool. And I do have a lot of respect for the guy, and I think it was neat seeing all those candid photos. I mean, it kind of brings him down to your level a little bit, and you see that he's a real person and that sort of thing. Cause,
humanizes him.
It humanizes him, exactly. Well put, thanks. But yeah, so needless to say, we got the tour through the West Wing of the White House, and I got to see, I forget one of the conference rooms, the name of it, but it was real neat looking. Simple, but historic features and displays. Big conference table with these real nice looking leather chairs, and of course the president's is in the center of the conference table, and it's just a little taller than all the others. And everybody who sits at that conference table, their chair, the leather chair, has a brass plate embedded into the back of the leather on the chair, and when they're done serving the White House, they get to take that chair home, which is really interesting. I learned that on the tour there.
Cool.
And for anybody who wants to know, this tour isn't just like a open to the public sort of thing. You don't get to see these sorts of things if you go on a White House tour, which I guess there is some sort of White House tour you can take, but it's not this intimate, and you don't get to see as much. So I got to do this because I know somebody who works there, and he pulled some strings and got me and my girlfriend in to see it. So needless to say, we saw that conference room. Then you go down a little ways and you get to see Dun 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 dun. The Oval Office. Oh man, come on. That's a top of the pyramid right there. And of course they had it roped off at the entryway. But we got to go in just as Obama had finished, working for the day, and everybody had cleared out. So they rope it off. Of course, I peered in, and I leaned way over the rope, and I touched the carpet. Yeah, what up?
That a boy.
I had to. Anyway, I still haven't washed that hand.
Why would you?
And every time there's a new president, they get to kind of decorate the Oval Office with their their significant tastes and the decor that they choose. And Obama I'll give the guy credit, he's got a very good taste. He had some nice paintings on the wall, a couple sculptures and whatnot, and different things. And the desk, oh god, why am I forgetting the name of the desk? There's a special name
Resolute
for it.
Desk.
Yes.
Oh wait, what is the Resolute Desk, Alex? Thank you. Little Jeopardy joke there for you.
Nice. But
thank you.
Yeah, that desk is impressive. Oh my gosh, it's very cool. Very cool. Very decorative and ornate, and obviously like a one of a kind.
I think there might be two though. Isn't there one over in England?
Yeah, because it was a gift from England. I'm pretty sure, wasn't it?
I think so. National Treasure. I'm getting most of my history right now from National Treasure, which may or may not be very accurate.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
There actually is a hidden panel in that, just like in the movie, by the way.
Oh, sweet.
That's true. But yeah, it was impressive, and I was surprised that he doesn't have a bunch of paperwork laying out on the desk or anything. It was organized and clean. And
Nice. Okay, so you have the White House, obviously a highlight. Was there anything else on this trip that just like stood out? Obviously, there's probably a lot of things. But
hold on, Jimmy. I also got to see the Roosevelt Room, another conference room.
Sure.
Medal of Honor hanging on the wall. Oh my God, that was really cool. Then they take you around. Got to go into the West Wing lobby, and then from the West Wing lobby, we stepped out the main entry to the lobby, and we got to walk down to the press briefing room. And here we actually got to take some photos and everything, and kind of free to walk around and check it out. All the chairs in there are anchored to the floor, and they're designated for each news affiliate. So you have like ABC, CNN, etc. I went and spit on Fox News. I farted in NBC's. Anywho, that was cool. And then they had all the TV mounts or TV camera mounts and stuff in the back, and it was a lot smaller than I thought it would be. It's really small, and it's not very, it wasn't clean and crisp. I mean, there's wires strung all over the place, etc. And then up on the podium, there's the White House podium, the big White House logo plaque on the wall that you see when they're speaking in there. It was impressive, really cool. Then we stepped out, and it was getting dark, and they were telling us, they have snipers that are up on the roof, and those snipers don't necessarily even look at the ground around the White House or even the streets next to the White House. They're actually looking at buildings that are adjacent and surrounding the White House. They're looking for people in windows that are, doing things they're not supposed to. And so they worry about things that are far outside of the White House perimeter. And then they, of course, walking by us, they have attack dogs with handlers and just people on patrol, which is really neat. Got to see the Rose Garden in the back of the White House, and that was really cool too. And you get to see where the president comes from, the center of the White House where he lives. He has his 45-second commute every day, which is on the back. He walks across the cobblestone pavers and up a little ramp to his secretary's office, touches base with her, and walks into the Oval Office. It was neat. It was really cool to see. It was like, man, it brings it all to real life, It's like when you watch Scandal and stuff. It's pretty accurate, to believe it or not. The thing that those TV shows do is they make it seem like the White House is a lot bigger than it really is, though. But, yeah, needless to say, White House, just the cherry on top of the sundae for my trip there. But getting down to the second highlight of my trip, what was it? Oh, Mount Vernon. For anybody that ever takes a trip to Washington, D.C., it is a must-see. Mount Vernon, for anyone who doesn't know, that's George Washington's home, George and Martha Washington. And you can go there, you can take the tour, and you go through his entire farm estate. They have the mansion there right on the Potomac River. The view is absolutely incredible up on a hill. It's literally Mount Vernon for a reason. It's up high and you overlook the entire river. You get to go through the mansion. They have somebody at every area to tell you a little bit of history. I mean, the railings and stuff on the staircases are all original. They said about 85 or 80% of the home is all original. Obviously, there are things that they've had to replace over time because of degradation and everything. But impressive. I mean, the bed that George Washington died in is still right there. I mean, it is really cool. So then after you get out of the mansion, you get to explore the grounds. There's like a greenhouse that was his own design, which had like heated flues that came up from the floor. That were heated by fireplaces in a room that was adjacent to it. Big windows to allow sunlight to get in, and he would actually grow like tropical plants in there, not indigenous to the area. So obviously a smart guy and more than just politics and military. So that was neat to see. He developed a granary where he would lay down wheat, and it was like a second level, and he had slotted floors. And he would have the slaves would actually drive horses around in a circle inside that barn on the second floor, and it would actually mash the wheat so that the seed would fall through the grating down below where they could shovel it out and sell it. That was really cool. There's a lot of cool innovations that he worked on. So he was a bit of an inventor himself, which was interesting to see. Right on the river, it had its own kind of harbor / boat dock where, things would come and go. They have animals there and everything, and they have reenactors that walk around. They have a blacksmith shop. Just something you have to see to really believe and take in that history. It's awe-inspiring, really cool. Then they have a really cool museum and education center. So
cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing those. If you guys want to hear more about those types of things, let us know, because I'm sure Joe's got way more stories. We're trying to keep it short tonight just because...
Nonsense, Jimmy. I got more for you. So anyway, we also
Yes.
went out to the Air and Space Museum that's at the... oh, God, the name escapes me right now, but the...
I thought you were joking.
Smithsonian. No, there's the Smithsonian Air and Space, which has some cool things. But we went to the one that was out of town over in Arlington County, and it's really large. It's they have tons of planes in there, okay? And you walk in, and the first thing you see, main display right in the center of the floor, is the SR-71 Blackbird. Holy man! I've seen one before because I've been to the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. At Wright Pat Air Force Base, where my uncle happens to work. So I've seen one before, but this one was really accentuated and lit up and looks really cool. And it's coincidentally the same one featured in the Transformers film, the second one, where they go into the museum and the little RC car rolls up underneath it. It's the exact same spot, the same lighting, the same little rope around it and everything. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, I'm kind of a gearhead and all that, so I just got enthralled in all those planes, and I could spend a day and a half, 2 days in one of those places. And then on top of that, they also have the Space Shuttle Discovery? I'm pretty sure it's Discovery, but... they have the actual space shuttle in the back of the hangar all by itself with some other satellites and stuff on display, but it still has the ceramic tiles on it with the burn marks from re-entry. Oh my God, I'll have to send you a picture, Jimmy, but it was absolutely incredible, and it is huge, absolutely huge. the rear end of the thing and the thrusters and all that, you could stack two of me in one of those, and that's about how big they are in diameter. And I'm about 6'3", so just impressive as all get out. And that was probably one of the other big highlights of my trip. Excuse me, another big highlight of the trip. But yeah, I just, it's not a vacation in the sense of you're laying on the beach watching the waves roll in, sipping a Mai Tai. It's you're doing a lot of walking, expending a lot of energy, but it's all worth it with the history and the information you suck in and absorb. Experience of a lifetime.
Well, that's good because that preps you for when we inevitably take our bro trip down to Disney World, because I do Disney a little differently than most people, and you need to be prepared for it. I need you to be in tip-top shape.
I know what you're saying, man. I'm all about getting my money's worth, so I got to see it all. I got to see it all. Well, get me one of those little mobility scooters. Get me a hover round.
No, those things are horrible. They're too slow. And they also, people run into me all the time with them. Like, these old people, or sometimes they're just overweight people that don't really need them. That's a whole other show. I like to see everything in Disney in like 2 or 3 days and then let people decide what they want to go back to. That's just the type of guy I am. But thank you, Joe. Maybe we can get some pictures. I don't know if Haley would want to send those to me. We could even throw them on the podcast. Maybe you guys have been seeing them the whole time. Maybe you haven't. I don't know. I'm not from the future. But maybe we could throw a few on there to show you guys what Joe saw, a few things, if that's okay with you. But it's completely up to Joe. Doesn't matter to me. But
yeah. So a little off topic for what we normally talk about here. But yeah, for anybody looking to take a vacation or a trip, so to see those things, I mean, you got to go to DC. I mean, it's something every American should experience once in their lifetime, if not twice or 3 times. It's so worth it. I mean, you can be somebody who's so disinterested in history to start with that you just don't care. But once you go there, you're immediately just like, oh man, I want to know more. And you become interested. Or for that high school kid that really doesn't have an interest in history class, you go to Washington, D.C., and it actually hits home. It makes you realize how real it is and how big of a part of our lives it is. And you go back to class, and that kid is like, yeah, tell me more. So that's the effect it had on me, I know. So I highly recommend it as a destination point for anyone in the future. So
cool. Well, thank you for sharing, man. It's cool to hear about that kind of stuff. I'll get to it one day, hopefully, but my main goal is still to get back to Disney World. That's more important to me. That sounds bad, but I
want to go on that trip with you, man. We'll make it happen.
Oh my gosh, we'll vlog the crap out of that. Which, by the way, Thomas is actually going down to Florida tomorrow, and he wasn't going to go to Disney World, but now he might for a day, so he might go to Magic Kingdom. So look forward to that. I told him to vlog everything. He's also going to an aquarium, which I know Joe would be really all about and excited to see. So
I love my aquariums. I went to the Natural History Museum, or the Smithsonian Natural History Museum down there. And I was like, oh, I hope they have an aquarium. And I've been there once before, but I couldn't remember because I was so young. They have one aquarium. Granted, it was large, but it wasn't like, oh, look at all this. It was just a cool little saltwater tank. But whatever. I love my aquariums. One day I'll have one in the wall of my house.
Yeah, for sure. One day, hopefully. Well, now we're going to segue into our last little segment of the show that is so lovingly referred to as Time Killers. Time Killers. Talking about the video games, the movies, the TV shows that we love to watch that actually kill time. Yes, literally. But so Joe, is there any time killers you've got going on right now? Any games, any movies, any TV shows that you're, or maybe just excited about coming down the pipeline?
Oh, well, you and I both started playing Overwatch, and we've talked about it in a podcast. And for anybody who hasn't checked it out yet, go check it out because it is awesome. So I know you and I will be playing some more of that while the betas are open, and get after that some more. Probably have some more info for you guys.
I had to go into GameStop and get another code because they didn't give me both codes. So I went in there the other day. I'm like, my buddy needs a code. Like, give me the code. So I had to go in there, and I also giggled because they're like, we're taking pre-orders on Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and I just started chuckling. I was just like, I bet you are. It was really good. But yeah, Overwatch, man. I love it. I'm in love.
Yeah. Other things I'm excited for, I know you've kind of turned me on to it, is the show Turn.
Yeah.
I guess it's an AMC series. I haven't started yet, but I plan to start watching that this weekend. So
Yeah, turn Washington spies.
Yeah, especially after going to Washington, D.C., I saw the book on the shelves, and I was like, oh, should I buy the book? I'll read that on the plane on the way home. And then I'm like, oh, I'll probably just watch it on Netflix.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you about that because that'll be fun. We can chat about that. I'm tempted to go back and rewatch the first season because they didn't do a recap, and I wasn't really familiar with everything that happened last season. But there's only 20 episodes. It's on Netflix. Check it out. Turn. Super good. And the other thing that's coming real soon, Joe, this week, Captain America Civil War. The long wait is over. Thank goodness. Because I'm dying over here, Joe. I'm seeing commercials everywhere. They're going to start putting them in bathrooms soon. Like, I won't be able to escape. Like,
don't put a TV in your bathroom.
I'm already going. I already bought my ticket, guys. Like, just everybody calm down. I'll go, Disney. You know I'm going to be there. You put Marvel on pretty much any of your superheroes. Like, let me know it's a Marvel film. I'm probably going to go. You know, because they haven't really made a bad one yet. I really enjoy them. Thoroughly enjoy them, and this one I think is going to be really good. Trying to keep my hype levels down. If you wanted to do a 0 to 10 on the hypometer, I don't know. Probably a 10, but I want to keep it at like a 7. It's really difficult.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty hyped too. I think it's going to be awesome, and I like to see that they're kind of pitted against each other just a little bit. Yeah. And I'm excited for the new character. Excuse me, the new character, Black Panther.
Oh my gosh, I have so much hope that he's going to be so cool because we honestly need a mainstream, like, standalone African-American superhero. And it's not just to, like, fill out the numbers and do all this stuff. I just think it's really cool because he can offer a different perspective. He can come from a place that we're not really familiar with, which is Wakanda, and all that stuff. And I think he's going to be really cool. Like, I'm really stoked for him because I think he's just a neat character.
Well, yeah. And for me, looking at the design of his suit and everything and what he's all about, he's aesthetically very pleasing. I think he looks awesome. And for me, I don't know a lot about him to begin with, so I'm interested to learn more. That's my main thing. I want to learn more about him, and the more I learn about him through this film, the more I want to look into him. So I hope they do him justice, and we get to see a lot of him.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that you're a big fan of Black Panthers anyway, or just Panthers in general. And I would love to see you meet Black Panther in real life, Joe. And you go up to him and you're like, yeah, it's just a variation of a leopard or a jaguar, so I don't see the black spots on there. I should be seeing some spots somewhere.
Yeah, in the right light, I should be able to see your spots. Where the hell are they, guy? Where are you hiding those suckers?
He just looks at you just like really slowly. You're like, I'm just saying, man, it's just, you could work on it. I mean, it looks good right now, but it's just, you could take it to that next level, you know?
They make paint for that now, you know? You can do that.
Yeah, come on, man. Think about nature. Think about the animals. Come on.
Those claws don't look that sharp. How strong is your jaw? You know, a jaguar can bite through a tortoiseshell and even the back of a crocodile. You know that? Can you do that? Huh?
He's just like looking at you. He's talking. He's like, my mouth is covered. And you're like, maybe you should alter that. I want to see you bite some people.
Yeah. Your name's Black Panther after all. Can you see at night? Do you have night vision?
He probably does. I don't know. He's very strong, and he's got a lot of kind of interesting powers, and he's also the self-proclaimed 8th smartest person in the world. So,
what?
Yeah, in the comic books, he's said like once or twice.
That's cool.
He's also
I don't know anything about his abilities.
So. I looked up some stuff the other day, but he outfoxed or is outsmarted Tony Stark a few times, which is kind of fun. But
wow.
Anyway, we're gonna get into that next week, so it'll be all about Civil War.
He's cunning like a Black Panther.
Yes, for sure. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you everybody so much for tuning in again to our wacky little podcast here. And let us know what you think about it. Leave us your questions, leave us your feedback, everything. We love it, and share it around if you can. But if you want to follow us and stay up to date with what we're doing, I am at Go Critical. That's all one like word. I think it's like a capital G and a capital C on Twitter. Same for Instagram. And I think we're at Critical Reviews on Twitch, and also like where I stream mostly is at Jimmy_good. And Joe, where can people find you?
Well, Twitter, it's at LeverJ_627, and that's Lever just like beaver, only with an L. Laugh it up.
I'm giggling over here.
Yeah, so is everybody else listening. Anywho, hey, easiest way for me to get people to spell my last name right. They never screw
exactly.
it up. Anywho, Instagram, I'm at LeverJ627, no underscore on that one. And I know we try and share all the Go Critical stuff on our social networking platforms, so Yeah, check us out.
Yeah, exactly. And to come, we might have to do. I was talking to Joe about this. The podcast next week. I might have to do it a little earlier. I'm not sure. It might be out a little later because of that. Because I'm going to be house sitting from starting on Tuesday to Saturday. So there's a chance we might try to record before I leave, and then I'll try to put it up when I come back Saturday or Sunday or something like that. But in the interim, I'm going to try to put up a Titanfall 2 wishlist video during that time, so that there's something out there for you guys to remember us by while we're having a little break. Not even a break. It's just like it might be a day or two later. Titanfall, and then eventually come
like a Titanfall.
I really want to make that song, Joe. I remember singing it. Came in like a Titanfall. What was it? What was it? Don't you ever say I went AFK. That was it. Okay. All right. I love that. Oh my goodness. And then eventually when Tom comes back, we'll have some of those, hopefully some crazy good vlogs from him. And he's going to edit the top 5 Marvel villains, super villains you should know about. They might be coming. They might not be, but it'd be really cool to see them either way. But thank you guys again so much. Oh, also thanks to Joran Evers again for this amazing picture that you're probably seeing again. And thanks to This Is Daylub. You can check him out on SoundCloud on his music and stuff for doing the intro outro song that we have now, because we're becoming more of an official amazing podcast. And heck, we might be on iTunes someday. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out the other podcasts. What are we, 6 deep now, Jimmy?
We're 6 deep now. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, check out those other ones if you want to hear about us gush about Overwatch and other things and Jungle Book. And Tom was on the last one, so that's kind of fun. You can hear him for one of the first times in all of our videos. Tom he's a behind the scenes kind of guy, so I forced him into it. I'm like, Tom, you're doing this. So yeah, that was a good time. But yeah, definitely subscribe to us and stay up to date. Man, it's been fun. Oh my goodness. Well, thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Deuces.
Take care.